going. So yeah, well, welcome everybody, and thank you all for joining us today for this webinar with Dr. Anne Curtis. And this is an extra webinar in addition to the usual monthly webinars. And I was really inspired to invite Anne along because she's running a 2-month online series of webinars with up to or even over 100 speakers starting on the 1st of May, I believe. Is that right, Anne? And running for 2 months till the end of June, and it's called The Secret of Everything, and it's aimed primarily at young people. I think, is that also correct? Anyway, no doubt you will be far better able to tell us more about that. But it's lovely to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to hearing just also about you and your journey with the 3 principles. Because we've spoken a few times online, but we've never had the opportunity to do this before. And I know that you do a lot of amazing work, and you've provided all sorts of resources and lists of resources and so on that people can access easily to find out this massive amount of stuff that's now available for anyone wanting to learn more about the principles. So, Anne, I think I'm just going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself, and I'd love to hear a bit about you and also a bit about what you've got coming up. And I'm going to mute myself to try and get rid of any feedback. Anne.
Okay, thanks, Christian. And the Secret of Everything, which is what the live event is called, the live event for young people is called The Secret of Everything, because that's how the 3 principles have been for me. I was looking for the secret of how to live life happily, how to enjoy life, how to have happy relationships, how to have good health, how to help people to enjoy life from when I was very young, from when I was a child, actually. And when it took me over 40 years probably to come across the 3 principles understanding and to get the benefits of that, I wanted immediately, like most people do when they discover this understanding and they get the experience of it, that I really wanted to make sure that everyone else in the world, or everyone that was open to it, could know about what's possible and how simple it is, and who we really are and how we really experience life and being human. And so that's how I started out. It was maybe 5-6 years ago now that I came across it, and I didn't particularly want to go back to being a therapist again. I trained as a doctor, I trained as a psychotherapist, I trained as a hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner, all the time looking for this answer, for this secret of everything. And by the time I came across this understanding, I didn't really want to be going back into being a therapist and sharing it myself. But I saw that there were so many really great people already sharing it in so many amazing ways, as coaches, as authors and speakers and so on. And I thought, well, I don't really need to do that myself. I can just share with other people what's already available. And that's why I started the 3 Principles Resources Facebook group, and then the 3 Principles Resources library, which has lists of, as much as I can keep up with now, because they're growing and growing, all the resources that I can find, the books and in different languages and different subjects, different topics, and so on. And all the videos that I can, although there are more and more of those coming out every day, so that's not so easy. But I did notice in the resources library that there's not that much for young people. And although that also is starting to grow now, there are people teaching in schools and sharing the principles and the understanding of the principles in schools, like Julie, who's here, and Joel. And I also noticed that there were particular topics that weren't being covered, and I thought that it would be a good idea to be able to share it with young people before they go out in the world. And also over this last couple of years, I have spent so many years and so much of my money and so much of my time looking for this answer that I actually lost my home and lost, so that I was basically became homeless and have been living in my little camper van most of the time, or with friends or with family. And during this last year or two, because I've been living in my van and so on, I got really interested in off-grid living, in sustainable living, in permaculture and so on. And I noticed how much interest there was in the world and in saving the planet amongst young people too. So, but at the same time, I noticed that young people were coming from a perspective of, most of the time, were coming from a perspective of anger and fear and so on, in looking for answers, and realized that it would be much more helpful if they could come from an understanding of how life really works. So I've got two reasons for sharing with young people, because I'd like them to be able to go out into the world and save the planet as well as everything else. And but it hadn't come to me, the idea hadn't come to me for how to do this until in last November. I was talking to Jack Pransky and back at the Viva event, and he had suggested that if there was anything else that I could do that would help get this out into the world, then to let him know, which I did when this idea came to my mind. And that was another thing about understanding the principles and understanding how life works, is that I didn't pressure myself to come up with an idea about how was I going to do this. I was like, I had all sorts of ideas, but nothing really felt like, oh yeah, I really want to do that. And then suddenly, as it does, out of the blue in March this year, this idea just came to me that, okay, so what really seems to be working for getting ideas out into the world is running online summits. And so I thought I will get a lot of our Three Principles speakers who love speaking and love sharing this to speak at a summit for young people and to share that. And now that there are some young people who have also had the experience, I've now got a few young people also who've had the experience of the Three Principles and of the benefits of the understanding and how it's changed their lives, who are also going to be speaking, which I think is more important in a way, to get young people to understand that it does apply to them. And then I've got lots of speakers who are working with young people who are going to speak too. So it's strange for me to be on this end, because I like being the one organizing the resources, not being the one that's actually doing the speaking myself. But there we go. Yeah, so what else was I going to say about it? Something else just came to my mind of that. Yeah, so in March, it was only in March that I had the idea that we should do it starting in May. In July and August, I'm already booked up and have things to do. So I had to do it before that or after. And I thought that I would lose the impetus to do it if it was any longer than that. So it's been a mad rush, not a rush, but it's been absolutely crazy trying to get this all together, getting everybody organized and getting a website going, which is almost ready now. And we do have an event page, but we have now got a sign up page, which is almost ready, and I will be putting out hopefully today, and if not tomorrow. And but it's been also, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the Three Principles understanding, because of course that you know, I get these thoughts and feelings about, oh my goodness, I'm, you know, haven't got time, and what do you think you're doing, and how can you possibly do this? And then I'm like, well, it's just happening. And the idea is that although the event will run live, and there'll be 1 or 2 speakers a day from the 1st of May until the 28th of June, it will be all recorded, and it will be on a specific YouTube channel. It will also go out live streaming. As long as everything works, it will go out live streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. So because it may be that young people aren't going to find or aren't interested in looking on a website, but it will go out on Facebook and it will go out on YouTube, and hopefully we will have links to the other social media. And in the meantime, it will, but in the long run, it will also still have all the recordings on the website and on the YouTube channel, and at least on the YouTube channel, and smaller clips as well as longer clips. And I will be incorporating into the YouTube channel other videos and other resources that other people have made in the past and in the future. So that it's an ongoing resource and all free. And the idea is to get young people interested, to give them an experience of the 3 principles understanding, and to show them what other resources there are, and to get them interested in that. So Iona, who you know, Christian, because you introduced her to the 3 principles, is actually going to be working with me and is helping me understand what it's like from young people's point of view. And she's talking about how she came to the 3 principles, what the difference was in her life, and what difference it's made to her life. And there will be other young people doing the same thing. So yeah, I think that's about it. It will be free. All the resources will be free, and young people will also be able to ask questions, get free coaching online, as part of it if they want to. They'll be able to ask about their specific anxieties, their specific struggles, and they'll also be able to do all of that completely confidentially if they want to. They don't have to. It won't be like although it will be done on Zoom, it'll be done on a Zoom webinar, so it won't be like this so that they can all be seen at the top. It will be that they can see us like this, and they can come on and be seen if they want to, but if they don't want to, they can stay completely anonymous, and nothing will show up of them. So I think that's about all that I can think of just now. So if there are any questions or anything else about that anyone would like to know, I'm quite happy to answer anything about it.
Oh, amazing. It sounds like really a phenomenal piece of work, and a terrific resource. And I'm just wondering, before I kind of really push people to ask questions, invite people to come in, is there anything that you need to support you in this? Is there anything still outstanding that, because you might as well put it out there?
Yeah, and I am going to be. I have got a designer doing a lot of the website for me, and that's great. I know some people have offered to do things already, and 1 or 2 people have offered particularly useful things, and I will be getting in touch, because I've discovered this. I've discovered in doing this that I hate writing copy. I cannot stand. I don't like doing that. So obviously I have to write emails to send out to people, only short ones, because it'll be just introducing them again to other resources, or how they can find the resources, and how they can be involved, and how they can ask questions, and so on. So I have had at least 1 volunteer to write copy for me, so I will be getting in touch with them very soon. The other thing that's useful is if people can let me know which of the videos they've already watched have had the most impact on them and their lives, and which other resources have had the most impact for them in understanding the 3 principles. That would be really helpful to be able to share with young people.
So are you asking for that now, and of what people have previously seen or coming up of your?
No, that I'm already asked. For the video clips, I'm already asking for. It does take some time for me to edit them and put them in, but that is helpful to have the things, anything that people have found has really impacted them is really useful to have now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I think, and over the next few days, I will be getting out there and telling people more about it, putting the links out and letting people know what is available and what I still need help with. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that you would be happy for people to share those and pass them on to any young people that they know, right? Yeah. And is there a sense of the kind of age range that, I mean, I'm sure there'll be people of all ages watching them, but is there a sense of a particular age range that
the age range that we're aiming at is mostly students,
right,
from teens and in their 20s.
uh-huh,
So it's mostly that group who are interested. Now there will be people in that age group who are more interested in going out and partying and doing stuff like that, which, you know, they may not feel that there are any issues that they're struggling with, but anything that people who are struggling with personal things to do with family, to do with bullying, to do with online issues or struggles that they're feeling under pressure, and also the transition from going to school, going to university, leaving home, and as well as bigger things like how to deal. So I heard just recently that some young people are struggling when they see famous people that they've been watching on television or and got involved with, who have committed suicide, and they're struggling with what does that mean and how can they cope with that, and does that mean that applies to them, and so on. Especially, yeah. So there'll be a lot of things to do with suicide and suicidal feelings and how to deal with that, and also the bigger issues about how to deal with gang pressures and shootings in schools and anything, terrorism, anything that, and also anything that they particularly want to be dealing with. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm wondering if this would be a good time to invite everyone on the call to it'd be lovely to hear any questions, or even just, you know, hear what attracted you to today's webinar, because I'm sure that interesting stuff for Anne will come out of that, possibly interesting for me too, but it'd be lovely to hear from some of you. And I know that a number of you are already doing work with kids. Yep. Sonia, it's nice to see you here. Would you like to come in at all?
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately I've just joined the call, so I kind of only came in halfway through. It does sound very, very interesting, and I do want to hear more, so I'm kind of a bit disappointed I missed the first 10 minutes. I know that my background, I was a teacher, but I'm all right now, is what I usually say. I now have had my own business since 2012, and my aim is to be going out into schools and communities to work with young people in particular, parents, and so yeah, I'm very interested in anything and everything to do with that, and yeah, I look forward to looking into what it is that you're doing and supporting it in any way that I can.
Thanks, Sonia. I'm just trying to manage and I think what's happening is that the feedback is somehow coming through your machine. I'm not quite sure how, but it seems to be when someone else is talking and it's coming through.
Oh, really? Do you want me to turn off my microphone and try?
No. Yeah, it's if I just sort of keep everybody muted, that. So, sorry, Sonia. Thank you for sharing that, and yeah.
Can you still hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, and is that better?
I think so. No. So when I talk, I think it's coming through your machine, or when Sonia was speaking at some, anyway, I think we're going to just have to live with it. Anybody else? It would be just so interesting to know what's drawn you here today.
There are apart from yourself, obviously, Christian, who is going to be speaking at the event, there are at least 2 or 3 other people, I think, who are going to be speaking. So maybe they want to say why they're involved. Yeah,
please do. Jules, are you one of them? I'm going to unmute you. Unmute myself.
Yes, I'm one of the invited few, or many, should I say. I've known Anne for a few years now, about 2014, 2015? Yeah, and we've had lots of contact off and on throughout the years, and about how we can help, how we can get this out there, how we can help kids. And I work with children and parents, and I've worked with them in schools with the Spark project. Currently putting together 2 projects, one with Spark, one with somebody else, and I've got a parenting group, a child and parenting group as well. So Anne sent me the invitation and just said, and you know, what will you share? And I can't remember what I said I would put. I'm being honest with you, but whatever it is, people will hear what they need to hear at the time, because that's how it works. So it's amazing that Anne's pulled all this together. It's going to be huge, and especially talking about the suicide and the gangs. I work with so many with self-harming, and you know, just the pressures that our young are under now is just. When we were young, we had our own pressures, but it's a different age. It's a completely different age now. And talking to teachers in schools, talking to parents, talking to kids, every one of them seems to be getting it from all directions. And when they don't understand that they've got their own innate well-being, their own health, then they can quite easily get bogged under. So the fact that Anne's got so many people speaking over this weekend means that everybody's going to hear something from somebody. You know, some people might hear something from me, and some people might think, well, she's talking a load of rubbish, and vice versa with other people. You know, there's some people that everybody hears something from, but you know, just the variety of people that are going to be sharing in the way they're sharing in all their own unique ways. It's just inspirational. So thank you very much, Anne.
Oh, thanks, Jules. Anne, I've just unmuted you again.
Yeah, okay. What also impressed me, the difference in the 3 Principles community is when I've looked at other people who are organising summits, and they all say how the most difficult thing is to get the speakers involved. Well, in the 3 Principles community, it wasn't difficult at all. It was like, would you do this? Yes. It's like everybody almost nobody has said no. And the ones who have either said no because they're already too busy doing other things, or they're not very well. But nearly everyone has just said yes without any hesitation whatsoever. So it's just fantastic. And that's very similar to what got me really interested in the 3 Principles understanding when I first heard about it, which was that, as I say, I had trained as a psychotherapist, and I had trained in psychology and in hypnotherapy and all sorts of things. And what I really, and specifically in sexual and relationship therapy. And yet, in my own life, my own relationships were always a disaster. And when I looked at my friends who had trained as therapists too, their relationships were not good, and they were not happy in their own lives. And when I came to the 3 Principles understanding and looked around the community, I was so impressed with what great relationships people had. and even when their relationships broke up, they broke up in an understanding way. They weren't all about blame, and they weren't all about anger and reproach and so on. But the fact that so many people had such good relationships really impressed me to begin with, and I was like, no, there's definitely something in this. And yeah, so the way that everybody relates, and also when the other great thing is that when anything goes wrong, or seems to go wrong, since I know that it doesn't, but when there seem to be problems in the organizing of all this, I know that people will be really understanding, and will know that if they feel bad about it, it's to do with their thoughts and their feelings, nothing to do with what's going wrong for me, you know. So that actually that takes a lot of the pressure off too. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. Jules, just unmute yourself and come in.
Can I just say, Anne, that I found that exact same thing. I'm doing I'm trying to find a free resource. I'm making a YouTube channel where parents can listen to other parents and other people who've talked to, recovered from, or walked through sticky situations in life. And every single person that I've asked just says yes. Exactly the same thing. And it is one of the very few industries that people will just help and just share and just be human without wanting something back in return, without, you know, wanting it to be a sales pitch, without, you know, a million different things. They're just happy to share what they can to help others. So I found the exact same thing, and it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So cool.
Thanks, Jules. I'm wondering, you know, I know that there are people on the call who are parents, and some of them used to be young people themselves, I believe. I'm just interested if anybody has. Bob, come in. I'm going to unmute you. There you go, Bob. Or not. Sorry. Bob, you're still muted. I don't know what's going on. There we are.
I think this is just, I have two grandchildren, 16 and 18, and they're really going extremely well, but I think they could benefit tremendously from this. And I think that this is something that's tremendously needed. I think you're doing a wonderful service here. And it's, you know, with all the situations with drugs and various things going on and suicides of young people, I think this is just spectacular. I think it's needed, and I don't really see anything else that's like this. So this is wonderful. And I'm going to share it with anybody I can think of. And so I'm sure this will make a huge difference in thousands of kids' lives. And they'll make a difference in others. The ripple effect on this 3 principles is amazing. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thanks, Bob. And thanks for all your support. Anyone else with any questions or contributions? It'd be lovely to hear from you. Oh, Richard. Well, I'll unmute you. You're unmuted.
Okay. Yeah. There's a few things I want to say. I used to be young, and I feel very immature at times until I measure myself against my daughters in their early 20s, and I think, oh, geez, why do you do such stupid things? And then I realised that they're the exact same things that I was doing at their age. And I'm around young people a lot, and you were talking earlier, Anne, about sustainability and everything else. And you know, we're without our youth, without the young people, and without really good young people, the world's stuffed. You know, we really have had it. And I didn't know about this event you're putting on, and I'm glad I've got that in my diary now, and I'm going to try and pay some attention to that. But I did want to say, you were the third person I came across in the three principles. By synchronicity, I was listening to a podcast one day between two rugby players, two professional rugby players, and one of them mentioned you. And I went and looked you up online, and I found all this stuff, and I started reading things, the Pranskys and all of that. And then I think months later, I read this name, Christian McNeill, who Christian and I had children. Christian and my children grew up. We're about the same ages. We've both had different partners, but our kids are about the same age. Would have been the better way to say that. And yeah, and I thought, oh God, Christian's involved in this as well. And I was trying to share there's something in it, and what you'd written resonated with me, and I was trying to share it with a really good friend of mine who happens to be a doctor as well. And he would only sit up and take notice when I said, well, this Anne woman, she's a doctor. And right, okay, I'll read it. And so we're both still plodding along on our three principles journey, and it's getting better and better, and I just love doing things like this. I've spoken with Christian before about some of the young people issues that you've been touching on, and some of them are horrendous. I was talking to a med student who just calmly said, yeah, two or three people a year will commit suicide in med school, in their uni. And I think that's horrible. That's just awful. My youngest went to St Andrews, and there were a couple of suicides every year. People and some horrible ones where kids went missing for weeks and weeks before they were found, before their bodies were found. And all this stuff. So anything that's good for youth, I'm all for. And yeah, lovely to be on this call, and lovely to see you, not in the flesh, but to see you through the internet. So, thanks.
Oh, thanks, Richard. That was great. Thank you very much. And I've kept you muted because of, there you go.
Well, thanks. So that was really, really great feedback. Thank you very much. And it always surprises me when people know me. Like when I went to the Viva event, there were lots of people that I knew from online, and it was lovely to meet people in person. But then there were other people who would come up to me and speak to me as if they knew me, and I'm like, how do you know who I am? It's very strange to hear, but really useful to hear about that people will take more notice because of the fact that I'm a doctor. So that's quite helpful to know. And also because it was so horrendous being a medical student, I have in the back of my mind a thought that that's one group that I would really like to help. Now, I don't know what it's like being a medical student now, because it's a long time since I was one of those, but I know it was pretty horrendous at the time, and even worse being a first year doctor. So it was bad enough, the pressure of being a medical student, but once we qualified, it was like overnight you were then completely responsible for people's life or death. It was, and certainly we didn't have any suicides around that, but I did know of at least 2 people in 1 year who had complete psychotic breakdowns, which is also not much fun. So yeah, thank you very much for that. That's also very helpful. I'm very interested in why rugby players were talking about me though.
I'm guessing it was Adam and Grayson.
That could have been, I guess, yeah.
Sonia, you got to come in.
So I'm still playing catch up because I missed the first 10 minutes or so. So apologies for that. But just to add to that, one of the schools that's down the road from where I stay, and indeed my own girls went to, I've been in working a little bit with the teachers in there, or a couple of classes in there. And there's one teacher in particular who we call a pupil support teacher, who really has no background in mental health in any way. They have the mental health first aid training, but essentially then they're left to their own. But my concern is also not so much even for the children, because the week that we went in, that school in particular had just gone through 4 girls who were 14 who'd all tried to take their own lives in 1 week. And their way of handling it was they called in CAMS, the Child and Mental Health Adolescent team. They called in educational psychologists, but they still are looking at this from this broken perspective. And what I'm really excited about is 2 things. One, the work that you're doing is the more we can get that out there, fantastic. Let's keep doing that. But also in working with Christian, we're concerned about helping the teachers, helping the helpers, because my goodness, what that teacher had to put up with that week, and I don't know how she slept if she doesn't have an understanding of the principles. And here's what's interesting. She was in a couple of the sessions that I did with a class, and her comment to me, she says, I've used that understanding in my dealings with this situation or that situation. Now, it was fascinating that she was starting to understand it as well. So as well as working with the young people, I think we have a lot of work to do with helping the helpers, and just wondered what your thoughts were on that, Anne.
Well, totally, yeah. I obviously, my aim is to share the resources with everyone, but it's impossible to do that in one event for everybody all at once. So there will be, my vision is that there will be more events for different groups of people. But even now, in the meantime, just like you've just said, this event is aimed at young people, but there's nothing to stop anyone else watching or coming along. And so there's no reason why the teachers and the helpers and so on, anybody involved with young people, or even not really, but who isn't involved in some way with young people, can't just watch as well and get just as much benefit from it. It's, so it is, we had to aim at a particular group for this particular event. But it's anyone can watch, and hopefully lots more people will watch at some stage and get some benefit from it. Yeah. And then at some point we will do another one. I imagine we'll do some more for different groups and for people who are, yeah, that's the idea. And if you would like to speak yourself, just let me know.
There you are, Sonia. Yeah.
Well, what I missed at the start was the dates and when it's all happening. So
it's from the 1st of May until the 28th of June, and it's on 6 days a week at least, 1 to 2 speakers a day. And I can send you the details in any case. If you'd like to speak and be involved, then I can send you the details of.
Sure. Yeah.
To do that.
There's another yes.
There we go.
And as your links come up, I will attach them both to the post in the Three Principles Conversation group and the blurb on the YouTube video when this goes up, so you can forward those over, and I'll do that. And I have been speaking to some young people, asking for their help in sort of sharing this. For people beyond the thanks, Richard. People who perhaps beyond the so-called three principles community, which is, I imagine, what you're hoping to do. It's not just a kind of preaching to the echo chamber, but sort of spreading it further and wider. Yeah.
And actually, going back to the last point is one of the other reasons for sharing this, like Jules and Joel and so on, talking about what is available now in schools. That's also helpful for the teachers and for the parents and so on, if they happen to be watching, to know that actually these resources are available, and Sonia too, that these resources are available, and it doesn't have to be the way it is at the moment. So hopefully that will get them to encourage the schools and to use the resources that are available.
Excellent. For anybody else who hasn't had, Bob, I'll unmute you. Oops. Oh dear, this is playing up tonight.
Yeah, I was thinking, this is, I'm going to share what you're doing here with our youth group at church. And I think there's a lot of churches that have youth groups that this would be spectacular to share with them. And, there are probably other youth groups too, like, YMCAs or something like that, YWCAs. I don't know how you necessarily get it out, but I'm certainly going to share it with ours. So, just a thought.
Thanks, Bob. A good point. And a few years ago, I did this year-long series. It was just one call a month, and it was when Brett's Supermind still existed. And the idea that sort of prompted it was, I was doing, I sort of had my iPhone out with a calculator, and I worked out that if each of us passed this on to 3 people, whatever that looked like, and those 3 people were able to pass it on, 3 people in a year. And if these new 3 people and us 2 were able to pass it on to a further 3 each, by the time you got to 10 years, it was at a reach of over 1 billion. Such is the nature of kind of doubling and that geometric progression. And I just thought, wow, it's sometimes you think, what's the point? How far can I spread this, and my reach is limited. But if each of us is just doing those little bits, and not even, if we're not comfortable sharing, then it's exactly as you say, sharing other people's resources that are there. It's the potential is just limitless, absolutely limitless. So good point, Bob. Good point.
I've got a really good example for you, Christian, on how you've made a difference probably larger than you thought you did. A couple of years ago, you interviewed Greg Suki, and he has gotten together with, he actually heard about this by coming to my 3 principles discussion group at church. And then he got together with Harry Durbitsky, and they started an addictions webinar, and they've been doing this for maybe 3 years or something. And they may have 20, people on their call, but they've recorded it, and there have been over 40,000 people watch that YouTube video. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable how this is, spreading, and you got him started on that, so it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, that each of us is a link in the chain if we want to be. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Oh, you mute. Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Christian.
Sorry. Oh God, I'm struggling with the controls tonight. So Lee has said, totally exhausted this evening, so I didn't have the energy to even speak, but very grateful to be listening and for all that you're doing. Living with 4 teens, surrounded by teens, and lots of mental health issues being diagnosed left, right, and centre. There has to be another way to show them. Yeah. Good luck with that, Lee. Thanks for that.
I think on the back of that, Christian, certainly it's not just been around the 3 principles that I've been in schools, but I've been in schools doing lots of other things. But there's a shift going on because, you know, schools are just struggling. Just based on what Lee said there, schools are really struggling because they just don't have any answers, and any answers they do have are just sticky plasters. And so that's where I feel that there is a shift. The time is ripe, and the further and wider we can spread this, then that's got to be good, you know, because there is no other way. And now we'll talk about it in the way of saying that it's our next evolution. You know, we've gone through the agricultural revolution, digital revolution, you know, you name it. But now the biggest concern is this mental health crisis. That, you know, one of the other things I've done is I speak to teachers, or I speak to children, or I speak to parents, and I say to them, give me 3 words that you would associate with mental health. And 9 times out of 10, they'll say things like stress, anxiety, depression, sadness, worry. And it shows the models that are out there just now, which is, that's not mental health, that's mental ill health. And it's because we have models out there that are saying, if you're broken, we'll find ways to fix you. And the beauty of this understanding is nobody's broken. It is a misunderstanding, and there's an education around that to be done. And the more, like I said, wider and further we can get that, then yeah, bring it on. So what you're doing is just fantastic, and I'm fully on board. And any way I can help and support, I'd love to do that.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks. And we are coming towards the end of our time, so I'm going to give it back to you just to see if you have any closing thoughts.
Not a lot. It was quite interesting hearing what Bob said, because Greg is one of the people that I spoke to quite early on and did an interview with, a video interview with quite early. And I remember him telling me his story, but I didn't realize it was you, Bob. That was quite funny. So yeah, so now we're just finishing up getting the website and the emails and all of that stuff ready, and I will be giving all the links to Christian so that she can get them out to everyone. And yes, we would like everyone to share them with as many young people as possible, and as many groups like that. That's really interesting, Bob. Thanks for talking about the youth groups as well. That's really a good idea too. And so and I will be contacting and getting the details out to as many young people's blogs and online places that people go online as well, and also contacting them through Energy Mind, of course. But yeah, so inviting as many people as possible to come and watch, and not just young people, but anyone who has anything to do with young people. So that would be great. Thanks very much, Christian, for letting people know about it.
Oh, thank you, Anne. It's it's a drop in the ocean compared to the piece of work that you've been up to, and it has been a real pleasure to have this conversation with you tonight. So thank you very much for making the time when you're obviously really busy, and thank you also for everyone, not just for being in the call tonight, which I really appreciate, but I know that, you know, because I know most of you, that that you are all, you know, doing that thing to share this and you know, share the benefits that you've had for yourself. So, you know, thank you for that too. Not that it's you know, I'm just acknowledging what you do, and I appreciate it. Appreciate that, you know, what we're all doing together. So thanks again, Anne. And all Anne's details will be, either on the Facebook group or the YouTube channel once the video goes up. So thank you everybody, and we'll just leave it at that.